We are back on the record at 12:23 p.m. This is the beginning of Media Unit number 3.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So let's sort of shift gears here for a second to, you may know it as human growth and development, but I'm sure I'll switch back between sex ed and
Sure.
human
yes,
growth.
thank you for that clarification.
Okay. So at some point, you got a public records request regarding the procedures for, lack of a better word, scrubbing the data, I guess to quote Dr. Marble, for the public records request regarding scrubbing the data. Is that right?
Yes. Am I allowed to?
Yeah, you can clarify.
I wouldn't call it scrubbing of the data because certain data points didn't go away.
Okay.
I would say that the data was disaggregated in different ways.
Okay. And do you know Dr. Marble?
I do know Dr. Nicole Marble.
And how do you know her?
Dr. Nicole Marble was the director of Marble, M-A-R-B-L-E, Nicole, N-I-C-O-L-E, doctor. Dr. Nicole Marble was the director of secondary education my first year in the district. She applied for a position, and the title of the position was Chief Academic Officer. It's a very important position.
Okay.
It's the Chief Academic Officer. She went through a rigorous process and was nominated and presented to the board as our selected choice, and has been serving in that role since July 1st.
So that's a pretty high level function?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So, okay, but at some point she used the term scrubbing data. Isn't that right?
I believe she did, yes.
Okay. And I just want to back up a couple more steps. So there was a public records request, and you would have been involved in that public records request?
Yes.
Okay. And you produced the public records in response to that request?
On behalf of the school district, in my role as the records custodian, yes, I did.
Are you able to identify this document as the public records request?
For the record, this document, meaning the series of documents we've marked as Exhibit 5.
That's right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet.
Yes.
Okay. And did you review this document before you produced it?
As stated in earlier testimony, typically we have the data drawn from Mr. Jamie Price, our Director of Technology, then legal counsel reviews things. I do review it, but I only look at things when they need to be, if there's a question from legal or from the technology team on what needs to be redacted, do I agree with their recommendations?
Okay, and this would have been, this public records request would have been produced recently, correct?
It was, what do you define as recently?
The last couple of months. Oh, sorry, I guess let's say in since August, last 6 months? Is that fair?
Let's make it fair, and sure, it was
Okay.
produced.
And then do you have a
This time
specific recollection of producing this document?
I must have if you have a copy of it.
Okay. And because part of my question is did you review all 200 odd pages of this before you
No.
produced it to the public?
No.
No. Okay. How did you get this document before it was produced to the public?
It's either provided to me by either legal counsel or Mr. Price.
Okay. And so did one of them say this is ready to go or something along those
Typically,
lines?
that's what they say
Okay.
to me, yes.
Okay. And so that would happen in this situation?
Yes.
Okay. So let's start with the first page here. And who is Michael Phillips?
Mr. Michael Phillips is a member of the school board in Wauwatosa.
Okay. And your demand means, and Eric Jessup Anchor, he's the school board president?
Yes.
Okay. And data cleanup exercise. You received this email, right?
I did.
Okay. And you reviewed it at that time?
I did review it.
Okay. And here it says, "Hi, Eric and Dr. Means. Would it be possible to have Jamie or someone from his team?" Who's Jamie?
Jamie's the director of technology.
Okay. "See how many of the email addresses in the attached are in Infinite Campus. Highlight those and shoot it back to me." Did I read that right?
You did.
What's Infinite Campus?
Infinite Campus is our student information system. It's the database where we keep all student addresses, their parents' contact information, their school records. It's a student information system.
Okay. And are there emails in that information system?
Email addresses, do you mean?
Fair enough.
Okay, with that, go ahead.
So along with primary contact, in terms of telephone number, home address, work information, there are email addresses that are utilized. So when I say we, the school district, when the school district sends out communications messages, that those emails are attached. So the recipient receives the information or the message.
Okay, so it's fair to say the emails, Infinite Campus contains emails that are used to send out district notices to district parents?
Infinite Campus is the tool that houses the email addresses that are connected to primary contacts for students. So when we do communicate with homes, they receive the information.
Okay, and I appreciate that information. That also included parents and guardians, for example, right? Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate that. Okay. So, and then he says, "Thanks in advance for your help with this request." Did I read that right?
Yes.
Okay, and so based on our reading of the policy, what is this? What is this request to you?
It's a request.
Okay. So it was optional, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And I noticed that you smiled there. Did that have a meaning?
Yes.
Okay. So, and I think we'll turn to the third page here, and these are
Okay.
double-sided, so it won't be as big of a turn, I think, as you may anticipate.
Okay.
So this is an email from you on Friday the 19th of August to Lisa Winters. Do you see that?
I do.
Who's Lisa Winters?
Lisa Winters is the individual who's in charge of running Infinite Campus, the student information system. So she's the administrator, if you will, of that system.
Okay. Besides that, does she have any other role at the district?
No.
Her sole job is to run Infinite Campus?
Yes.
Okay. And Nicole Marble, we said she's the chief academic officer.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And this is you asking Lisa, would it be possible to see how many of the email addresses in the attached are in Infinite Campus, highlight those, and provide the results back to me as soon as possible?
I did say that.
Okay.
I said it looks like around 6:03 p.m. on Friday, August 22nd. I received the original email from Mr. Mike Phillips at, it looks like 5:48 p.m. on Friday, August 19th.
And what's significant about that time period to you?
Well, what's significant about it is on Monday, August 22nd, would have been the school board meeting in which the board was going to vote on the human growth and development curriculum. So we received this information, this data request on Friday night. On Monday night, so the next work day, the board was going to act on this curriculum.
But you originally told them that you were told the board members, not the board that you spoke with, that you were going to do this work on Monday, correct?
No,
Okay.
no. Again, I remember it vividly. I was at home. And I was home with my family, and this email came across at 5:48 p.m. So 5:48 p.m. in August, just to set the context for you, Mr. Cross. So August is a very busy time for school administrators. That would have been the week in which we were starting to gear up for teachers to come back to school, and we're really focusing on getting the school year started. And there was a lot of angst in our community around this human growth and development curriculum. So, and I typically stay at work until 6, 7 o'clock at night, which is it's
A bad practice.
It's a bad practice, but that's how much I care about the job. And so I remember this vividly because I was home early on that Friday, and I'll never forget that request came across around 5:48 p.m. that Friday, for which I knew was going to be a raucous school board meeting that Monday. And this request for data was a really interesting, thought-provoking request.
Why was it interesting?
Because there was a lot of consternation in our community around the survey that we utilized for getting stakeholder opinions on our human growth and development curriculum. The human growth and development curriculum became I would consider a national story, not a statewide story, not a metro area story, a national story. It was referenced across the country. We were getting emails and postcards from all over the country around it. We had individuals who did not live in Wauwatosa taking the survey, giving their opinions on the human growth and development curriculum. That is in large part due to the poor survey construction that our administrative team put in place for it. So it was open to anyone who wanted to take the survey because we were trying to open it up to the community, and we didn't realize that the community was going to expand beyond the city boundaries of Wauwatosa.
Okay. And so
Mr. Phillips' request, as I received it on August 19th at 5:48 p.m., he didn't say it, but his request was to say, how do we disaggregate, not scrub, how do we disaggregate the data in a way where I can find out as a school board member how many of the emails are actually attached to students who attend Wauwatosa schools?
Okay. Please point for me what in this email lets you come to that conclusion.
So during my training in receiving my doctoral degree is that you have to infer things when you're working with a school board. And so understanding that I received this type of request, so let me share with you where I'm getting that inference.
Please.
Could someone from his team, so Jamie's the technology director, so they're asking for someone who can go into their technology and see what email addresses are attached to students in Infinite Campus. Since Mr. Phillips knows our school system, he knows that Infinite Campus is our student information system. So that sentence is telling me he wants to know how many of the respondents to the survey are associated with a student in Infinite Campus.
Okay. And then it says it's a data view that I need. Okay, what did that mean to you?
That means to me that he wanted to know how many of the responses in the survey were actual parents or individual or guardians associated with a student who attends Wauwatosa schools.
Okay, and at that time you were clear that this was just a request from, that Mr. Phillips was the one who needed that information, right?
Yes.
Okay. But he also copied the president as well.
Yes, I think actually that was, yes, Mr. Phillips also copied the board president, and that was proper form in many ways in that if I had the ability to say, no thanks, Mr. Phillips, it's August, I can't do it, and we won't have this turned around for you by Monday, August 22nd. I could have said that.
Okay.
And I think by CCing the board president, it gave me the ability to say it. I chose not to.
Okay. Now, what in this email and lets you infer that this is needed urgently, in fact, so urgently this has to be done over the weekend?
Well,
I'm going to object to the form of that question. Subject to that, you can answer to the best of your ability.
I know that would have been 20th, 21st. Yep. The board meeting was on August 22nd, and we were receiving a lot of community interest around this issue. And the board was scheduled to vote on it on August 22nd. So that line, the line at the end of the second sentence of I'm doing some data work on this spreadsheet survey that is a data view that I need. So I presume that this board member would need this information in order to make a certain vote.
Okay. Okay. And did you tell them that it was a great idea to clean the data? Did you agree with that? I guess we'll start with that. Did you agree with that idea?
I did agree that this is something that we, in retrospect, we probably should have done. So I thought it was a good idea. It did put us under a crunch because it was over the weekend and or Monday.
Okay.
So more time the better, but nonetheless, I think disaggregating data as much as you can is always healthy.
Why?
Because you have different views of data that you can consider when making a final decision.
Okay. So I believe this is page 50, and I'm terribly sorry these aren't paginated here. I don't know how we're going to do this, but this is an email from you responding to Mr. Phillips and Dr. Jessup Anger soon thereafter. Yes.
Just informally. Let me see it. I'm going to help him find it.
I appreciate that.
Okay, let's try to find it. August 19, you're at the top. Is the subject line read data cleanup exercise?
Precisely.
Okay, he's got it.
Good evening, Mike. Do you see that?
We see Mike, thank you. Okay, there might be multiple. Let's just,
I'm going to read this to you, and if there's any confusion or anything else, you just, we'll make sure that you've got it in front of you if that's what you need, okay?
Okay.
All right. So here is this email from you to Mr. Phillips and Mr. Jessup Anger. It's at 18:04:14, and it says, "Good evening, Mike. We will work on this request first thing Monday morning. Thank you for this opportunity, demand."
Yes.
Okay. Why did you say thank you for this opportunity?
It was an awesome opportunity for us to disaggregate the data.
Okay. And you knew this was going to take a substantial amount of time over the
Significant amount of time.
Okay, and why was that awesome?
Why is that?
He didn't say the amount of time was awesome. I think he's asked and answered your question as to why he wrote what he wrote. Subject to that, you can answer again.
The disaggregation of data is always a healthy thing to have. I think the time crunch was not optimal, but overall it was a different angle, a different perspective on the data that was healthy.
Okay, why do you believe that disaggregation is always beneficial?
Because if a school board member is saying it's something that I need,
okay,
which he did in his email at 5:48 p.m., that's one foundational point. The other is the more perspective you have on data, the better. Numbers are just numbers unless you have disaggregated numbers that can give you a different angle of the story. The numbers don't really mean much.
Okay. And, did you feel that there was a problem with the original data?
We did. We felt that the data the survey itself was compromised.
Okay, when you say we, who are you talking about?
I mean the district.
Okay.
So when we developed the survey, it was always meant to get the opinions of residents and parents. It was not meant for people who don't live in Wauwatosa to influence the survey. The survey was compromised.
But the survey also included teachers, correct?
It did.
And it also included students, correct?
It did.
Both of which you have power over, correct?
I'm going to object to the form. Vague, power, subject to
What's
that.
power?
Do you have employment power over the teachers?
Again, I'm going to object. It's vague. Teachers have a contract with the board. That said, you can answer to the best of your ability.
I think your line of questioning at the beginning of the morning was outstanding. And so you should note that the school board, if there's a non-renewal of a teacher, I think it's 118.22, that's the school law training that I had. I can't fire a teacher. I can make a recommendation for non-renewal.
You can discipline a teacher, can't you?
I can discipline a teacher, but that discipline is progressive, and eventually, if there's a non-renewal or firing of the teacher, that's a school board decision.
And-
The same way that a student is expelled by virtue or through the means of an expulsion.
Right, but you can still suspend a student, right?
I can.
Yeah, right. Okay. So it's fair to say you have disciplinary power over students?
Object to the form, subject to that, you mean,
I
sir?
do, but also I want to point out for the record that the way that a school district functions, especially I think this is really important to note, the Wauwatosa School District is one of the 20 largest school districts in the state of Wisconsin. So, Mr. Cross, there are a total of 421 school districts in Wisconsin. We're 20 of the largest.
Okay.
So, respectfully, I will never suspend a student. Respectfully, I will be part of the recommendation for the non-renewal of a teacher, but the principal of the teacher, that's the immediate supervisor. That person will bring the recommendation. So when you talk about the authority and power of Damon Means as superintendent, my job is to recommend those actions that my subordinates, either a principal or a director, will recommend.
That's a form of power, isn't it?
It's a form of power, but that power is a collaborative form of power. It is not a monarchy where I can simply make decisions on my own. And so I just want to add that context.
Okay. Now let's focus in on the parents. Well, you said community members. You were trying to get survey responses for community members. Is
Yes,
that right?
sir.
Okay. Did that include only parents or something else?
No, it meant community members. So it could mean Mr. and Mrs. Smith who had children who graduated from the school district in 1992 and 1994.
Okay.
And it could also mean Mr. and Mrs. Johnson who have children in the school system right now.
Okay.
We wanted to get an opinion of the community, either current parents or former parents or people who live in our community and may have never had children go through the school system.
All right. Well, let's talk about Miss Smith, who's not married and doesn't have any kids.
Okay.
She pays taxes in the district. What about her?
Her information's in the survey
Why?
because she's a resident, she's a taxpayer, and she's a resident of the community.
Okay. So, and you told the school board that you had a methodology for, you called it disaggregating, but Ms. Marble called it scrubbing the data, right?
Well, we had a process of going into Infinite Campus and identifying which email addresses that responded to the survey were attached to a student who is currently a student in the district.
Okay. And so that by finding, let's put it like this. When somebody submitted a survey, did they also submit an email?
Yes.
Okay. And so you were able to link emails to from the survey results to Infinite Campus.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so those survey results were kept.
All survey data was kept.
Okay.
No survey data was thrown out.
Then we can call it scrubbed or disaggregated, right?
Let's call it disaggregated.
Well, okay.
That's the word he wants to use, so we'll use that for purposes of your deposition.
Well, let's talk about Let's talk about Miss Marble.
Dr. Marble.
Dr. Marble. I appreciate that.
People work hard on those degrees. We do that in academia. So, sorry. You can call me Damon. You don't have to. But I just want to be respectful of Dr. Marble.
I understand. I had in middle school a principal named Dr. Onick, but we all called him-
Rogers Onick,
You
great
got it.
man.
I knew it.
Oh, such an amazing man.
But everybody called him Mr. Dr. Onick, and it's stuck ever since. So if I am causing an offense, I apologize.
That's okay, because Dr. Onick makes me still call him Dr. Onick.
All right.
Damon's just very deferential to others. He's the first person to not be deferential to himself. He just wants to use correct terminology when he refers to his
And Mr.
peers.
Cross knows that Dr. Onick, you better be deferential to him.
We're on the same page, sir. You got that right. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, and at some point, let's say that Dr. Marble sent you an email in which she used the word scrubbing data, correct?
She may have.
Okay.
Sure.
Did you ever tell her to stop use the word disaggregate at that point?
I did not,
Okay, why not?
because I knew what she meant.
Okay. So as far as you're concerned, those two words are synonymous or something else?
I knew what she meant. I think that subsequently, since this is all unfolded, the word scrub has now taken on a meaning of its own. It's really important to note that during the August 22nd presentation of all the data, Dr. Marble shared all of the data, but then she also shared that disaggregated data set of the data that was requested by 2 school board members. Not only Mr. Phillips, but I think later on in this chain of emails, Leanne Fraley also made a request for this information. Hence my comment to him at 6:04 p.m. on August 19th that I appreciated the opportunity.
Okay. And do you know about how much time Dr. Marble spent in doing what she called scrubbing the data?
Objection form foundations, subject to that. Answer if you know.
Dr. Marble, I do know this to a certain degree. Ms. Winters, a member of Mr. Jamie Price's data team. There were 3 people who were working on this data disaggregation all weekend. I remember vividly that Dr. Marble was actually at a wedding that weekend, and in between the wedding, she was going back to her room and trying to figure out the data. I think she's a hard-working, conscientious professional, and felt, since she led the human growth and development curriculum process, so I think there was an element of feeling responsible for it being a good process, and felt bad that the data collection didn't go as we planned. Because again, our plan was to allow community members / taxpayers who don't have children in the schools, or people who had children in the schools, to have voice. We didn't think that people from Seattle, Washington was going to take our survey, which happened. Okay. We didn't know that there were going to be people who were advocating against the curriculum. They were literally sending out the link to the survey and telling people from all over the country that you should take the survey. We didn't realize that as a result of this curriculum that I received hate mail from all parts of the country because of the way that this was conveyed, and I think Dr. Marble felt bad about that, how things had transpired.
Well, I'm sorry for that, but you did overreact, didn't you? There was people who were community members who were removed from the final results, correct?
Objection, it's compound. You can answer the compound question if you can answer both parts.
I think I can. No one's data results were removed. Hence the use of the word scrub is probably inappropriate, or I shouldn't say inappropriate. I'll strike that. I would say is not in alignment with what actually happened, because no data was removed. It's just that certain board members decided to prioritize certain data sets over others.
Right, and in fact they used the word cleanup, correct?
I don't know what they used as their language. I think some of that language was in there. That's not the language I would use. My point is certain school board members felt that the disaggregated data set that was provided by Dr. Marble and our technology team was a higher priority for them in making their governance decision. That's their decision. So I want to be very clear. How we disaggregated the data is one thing, but that doesn't mean that data was thrown out. If people in the community have a problem with school board members prioritizing a certain data set over another, that's fair. That's politics. I understand, but that doesn't have any impact over the quality of the data.
Okay. So, and I guess we can get that out of the way too. Can you explain to me how this data was presented, both sets of this data was ultimately presented to the public?
It was presented at the school board meeting on August 22nd, and Dr. Marble shared that per some requests from board members, we worked hard, and they did. And I can't take any of the credit on this. I think it was Dr. Marble and our technology team. They really worked hard to get that data set, and they shared it at the board meeting on August 22nd. Subsequently, I believe that at least one board member made the statement of this was a data set perspective that was a priority for them.
Okay. And so, because I want to be clear, how was this presented? Was it presented, by what means was this
I think it was a slideshow that was put up on the screens in the boardroom.
A PowerPoint?
A PowerPoint, yes,
Okay.
sir.
And so, was the data presented in numbers? Was it presented in some other fashion?
I believe they were presented in some table form.
Charts? Is that
Charts, yes, sir.
Okay. So, and were there two sets of charts, or how was a person who was at that presentation to understand which data they were looking at?
She titled the charts based on how it was disaggregated and what group of stakeholders were represented in that data.
Okay. What were those titles, if you know?
I don't remember.
Okay. And ultimately, because I want to be clear, there's one set here that's all of the survey results, correct?
Right.
Okay. And there's another
Unfiltered.
unfiltered.
Yes.
And there's another set of data that's filtered.
Yes.
And so there's only two.
I think, but they were filtered in different ways. I think she filtered it in terms of what the students had to say, what teachers had to say. I think there were there were varying filters that she presented.
We would be happy to provide that slideshow. We've got it
It's
somewhere.
on board docs.
Oh, so we could get it online, is what he's saying.
Yes.
Be available.
I think we
on-
probably provided it to you, so I don't think that's the issue.
Okay.
Okay, but so, but yes, but I understand that, but it was the data we're talking about really is survey results, filtered, survey results unfiltered, in terms of community members.
I'm going to object to the form of that. If you understand it, go ahead.
I do understand the question. I think there was a set of data that was simply unfiltered and included all respondents.
Okay,
And then there were varying versions of the data that was filtered based on the stakeholder groups.
okay. And how many versions are we talking about?
I think there were a number of different versions. If I remember correctly, the first August board meeting was August 8th, and there were survey results coming in, and the survey results were favorable to the curriculum. Then there was a message that was sent out by opponents to the curriculum that said, take this survey, tell the Wauwatosa School District how you feel about this curriculum. And we were seeing this influx of people who didn't live in Wauwatosa, nor did they have children in Wauwatosa, weighing in on a curriculum that would impact the community of Wauwatosa. So the unfiltered final results were closer in terms of favorable and unfavorable numbers. But then when you start looking at how teachers and students and families who had emails associated with Infinite Campus, the student information system, there was a gap in terms of how they favored the curriculum and how the unfiltered data set was how it came out.
Okay, but the first issue then wasn't whether or not people were from the community or not. It was their reaction to their favorable or unfavorable responses to the survey, correct?
I'm going to object to the form. Answer if you can.
I would respectfully tell you that the way that you should frame your question is that the district did a poor job in structuring the survey, and we should have done a better job in having protocols that required you to demonstrate that you were a member of the Wauwatosa community. We failed there.
Okay, what was the first piece of information that the district learned that made it come to the conclusion that
We failed?
We failed.
There was a social media push by individuals who did not live in Wauwatosa to encourage people to take the survey around our human growth and development curriculum.
How did you learn about that?
We saw our communications director informed me that they were getting messages on social media, and then we had other people reach out to district administrators, and when I say district administrators, I mean Dr. Marble and others, indicating that there was a movement to get others, regardless of where they lived, to take the survey.
Okay.
and to voice their opposition.
Okay, were any of those people board members?
Those people being those that notified him? Mm-hmm. Okay. I didn't
don't
understand you're those people.
I
Go ahead.
don't recall. I can't remember.
Is it possible?
It's possible.
Okay. Is it likely?
I don't remember. August and superintendent time is a long time ago.
True.
Okay. And you said there was a communications director? Mm-hmm. Who's that person?
Yes, I'm sorry. Her name is Sarah Ellis, Ellis.
Okay. And she is monitoring social...
Sarah with an H.
Part of her job duties are to monitor social network communications
Yes.
regarding the district?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is that the only way the district learned about this?
I'm going to object to the form. It's foundation as to the district, but you can say how you learned. Is that the only way you learned?
From what I recall, yes.
Okay. So when you learned of this from the communications director, what steps did you take, if any?
There were no steps to take. So your question is, what steps did we take after we realized that the survey was compromised and that now people were being asked to take our survey that was meant for Wauwatosa residents and Wauwatosa students and Wauwatosa teachers and Wauwatosa parents of current Wauwatosa students? What did we do to respond when we heard that there were other people taking the survey? There wasn't much for us to do because, as I referenced earlier, the construction of that survey there were oversights that we should have thought about. But I want to be very careful in that statement of what I just said in terms of what we should have thought about. This is really important and critical. Never in a million years had I thought that our survey around the human growth and development curriculum in Wauwatosa would be blasted out into social media and become a national debate topic. Never, we didn't think about that. Now, we learned something from that process, but we would have never, we did not think about the fact that we should have a very tight survey administration protocol in the case that people who are in opposition of the curriculum would encourage people who don't live in Wauwatosa to take our survey.
Okay. But the problem...
And now, and if I may, Mr.
Please.
Cross, now that I am thinking of it, I received calls. I received at least one or two calls from other people who this actually helped me remember. One or two calls from other people who said that they are in certain parent email chat groups who said, Dr. Means, you should be aware that we're getting emails from people encouraging us to take your survey for the human growth and development curriculum in Wauwatosa. I live in Waukesha, or I live in Madison, or I live in other places. So I did receive at least one or two calls to that effect.
Great. If we can just focus on the question I asked, which was this. After you received that information from the communications director, what action, if any, did you take?
We didn't take any. There was no action to take, Mr. Cross.
Okay.
Because the survey was already released. We weren't going to say, we wanted to continue to keep the option available for Wauwatosa residents to take the survey, just because the survey was compromised by others who wanted to take advantage of our openness and our willingness to gather public opinion. If we were taken advantage of from that perspective, that wasn't going to stop us from taking information.
So the district was fine with the information?
We were not fine with it. I think that's a mischaracterization of what I just said.
Well, you weren't going to take any action to change it?
We weren't going to limit.
Hold on. I'm going to object to the form of the question. Subject to that, you may answer.
We weren't going to take it. We weren't going to take the option for community members to take the survey. We were disappointed. We were deeply disappointed that there were opponents to the curriculum who chose to compromise the survey.
Okay.
For our residents.
Okay, so you didn't take any action based on that deep disappointment until a board member or board members contacted you about scrubbing the data, correct?
I would respectfully say that we didn't, that the disaggregation of the data was taking action of anything. We still kept the survey open, we just disaggregated it in a different way.
Okay, but there was no plans by the district to disaggregate the data before you were asked specifically by?
No, there was
Okay,
not.
Mr. Phillips. Okay. And did you consider doing that before you were asked by Mr.? Did you consider disaggregating the data
No.
before that point?
No.
Why not?
As I shared with you earlier, August is a very busy time. We were aware that the survey had been compromised, but hadn't thought about disaggregating the data at that time.
Okay, and why? You testified earlier that it was urgent because there was a school board meeting coming up the following Monday, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And prior to the Friday, how long had that information been available?
The majority of the month.
Okay.
The month of August.
It's fair to say this is a last-minute request, correct?
Object to
Yeah.
the form. That's
Yes,
argumentative,
I
but
think
go ahead.
timeline-wise, if we would have had more time to consider the disaggregation of that data, that would have been ideal.
Right, and then Dr. Marble could have enjoyed that wedding, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and in fact,
But I don't want to presume that she didn't enjoy the wedding.
she could have enjoyed it more. How about that?
Okay.
Okay. Well, do you think it was enjoyable for her to have to go back
wait.
and leave the
That's an
wedding?
opinion.
Just wait. I'm going to object to that. It's argumentative. It's improper. Subject to that, just answer it so we can move on, please.
Are you waiting on an answer from me?
Yes.
I think he answered before I objected, but that said, you can answer again.
I think it's all based on opinions. I've been at some weddings that I would prefer to be in my hotel room and some that I want to stay constantly at.
I appreciate that clarification.
Yes, sir.
All right. So at some point, you got a response from Eric Jessup Anger. In fact, it occurs on Friday evening at 6:27, sent to both you and Mr. Phillips saying, thank you both. If we can clean this data up, I'm this way that will be
I'm sorry, clean this data up. What was the next?
clean this data up. I'm this way that will be a nice additional piece of data to inform.
Could you give us the time one more time? 6:27?
18:27 is what it says, but yeah.
18:27. Thank you. Just.
Of course, I'm sorry for the...
No.
Yeah,
you're
I
good.
have it.
I do too.
Thank you both.
Right.
If we clean this data up, I'm this way, that will be a nice additional piece of data to inform.
Okay. And what did that mean to you at that time?
I don't know. It was a response from another school board member. I think, if I'm reading into it, I think he is implying that this would be a good disaggregated set to look at of the data.
Okay. And so, because at some point you tell him that you're going to start working on this first thing Monday morning, and but at some point you tell Dr. Marble to start working on it that weekend, right?
As much as possible, yes.
Okay. Was there any conversation, or what made you decide to change your mind from 6:04 when you said we will work on this request first thing Monday morning to instead ask Dr. Marble to work over the weekend?
only. I'm showing him the August 19 email wherein he talks about working
No.
on the request first thing in the morning.
I'm
Go ahead
okay,
and answer.
Lori. I think what I'm trying to do, it's implied that I asked Dr. Marble to start working on it over the weekend. I think I am looking at an email that was sent from Dr. Marble to me and CC Miss Winters, and it says, Lisa, I can help with this as well. I'll start working on this tonight and mark my progress. So I don't think there was an official request from Dr. Damon Means to Dr. Nicole Marble to say start working on it during the wedding weekend. I think Dr. Marble is a conscientious, hardworking professional who said, I'm going to jump into this now.
Okay, because you in fact asked Lisa Winters first, correct?
Yes, I went to Lisa and then Nicole said I can help.
Okay. So, and you said...
Without studying all this, I think that's how it all played out.
Okay, and I read this as you saying, would it be possible to see how many of the email addresses in the attached are an Infinite campus, highlight those, and provide the results back to me as soon as possible? As you know, the district is working on human growth and development curriculum currently. We issued a survey for stakeholders to provide feedback recently. We would like to get a better sense of how many of the email responses are individuals directly associated with the district. Did I read that right?
You did.
Okay. When you say we there, who are you referring to?
The district.
Okay. And so that, in that sense, does that mean you as superintendent or something else?
It means the district.
Okay. So, but so far I've got you, I've got Mr. Jessup Anger, and I've got Mr. Michaels.
Phillips.
Phillips. So how is that the district?
Well, you're referencing the sentence that says we issued a survey for stakeholders to provide feedback recently. That's the sentence you're referencing, right?
So possibly I'll direct you here. We would like to get a better sense of how many of the email responses are individuals directly associated with the district.
I was referring to myself.
Oh, okay. And then, because what's confusing about that, in just the next sentence there, you say, I realize this is a big request, right?
Yes.
Okay. And again, you say, I apologize for the timing.
Yes.
So when you were referring to yourself in that previous paragraph, you could have said, I would like to get better data of how many of the email responses are individuals directly associated with the district?
It's a great question, Mr. Cross. What I would tell you in the leadership training that I received is that when I'm speaking on behalf of the district, I take on the we. But when I'm asking my staff to do something that is really difficult, I need to take responsibility for that. And so I'm not gonna say the board asked me to do it, because ultimately, as you've pointed out earlier, I always have the ability to say no. It's Friday. We can't do this. I understood what the request was and believed that it was a worthy pursuit of time and effort. And so that's when I took on the responsibility of saying, I realize I'm making a big request. I apologize for the timing.
Do you think Ms. Winters or Dr. Marble understood that shift in person?
Objection, form foundation, subject to that. You may answer if you know.
I don't know what they thought. That would be, we've never had a debrief for me to ask what they thought of my email on August 19th at 6:03 p.m.
Okay. All right, and I guess because we haven't been clear on that, and just focusing on the disaggregated data, there were current parents of pupils enrolled in the district that were filtered out from that set of data, correct?
Yes, they were.
Okay, and there were taxpayers who lived in the district who were filtered out from that set of data, correct?
Objection, foundation. If you know, go ahead.
Well, if they don't have children in the school system, they would have been filtered out of the disaggregated set.
Okay.
That was used to pull out families who had email addresses in Infinite Campus.
Okay, and so that would have not followed the definition of community members that you gave to us earlier, right?
Objection form. You may answer if you understand.
I don't understand how you framed that question.
Okay, well, as far as I understand, you labeled stakeholders as parents, teachers, and anybody, any taxpayer in the community.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're clear that some taxpayers were excluded from filtered out of those results, right?
Objection form. You may answer.
I believe you're asking the question around, so by disaggregating the data based on parents and guardians who are in Infinite Campus, did that exclude other people? It's a data set. It didn't exclude anyone. It's just a unique data set that only reference people who are parents or current parents or current parents or current guardians.
Sure, and we're all clear that the data didn't jump up and disaggregate itself. So moving from there, the board is the one who actively the district is the one who actively disaggregated the data, correct?
There was a pursuit to disaggregate the data in a different set.
Great. So from that pursuit to disaggregate the data from a different set, there were current parents of current pupils from the district who were removed, correct?
There were parents of current districts removed.
There were survey results from parents of current pupils that were removed, right?
Object to the form. Go
I
ahead.
think what Mr. Cross is trying to
not-
say is that there were certain parents, and this is accurate, there were certain parents who did not have their email addresses in Infinite Campus. And so they responded to the survey without the email that is actually in Infinite Campus. So if you're Tom Smith and you have a Gmail account and then you have your work account, and your Gmail account is the one that's in Infinite Campus, but you used your work account to complete the survey, that was filtered out.
Okay.
Because we only took the information that was associated with the Infinite Campus.
Okay, and that came from Mr. Phillips, right?
That request of trying to identify the request to utilize Infinite Campus, the foundation of it was to say, if you are a parent or guardian identified in Infinite Campus, that means you are attached to a student who is currently in our school system. The challenge is that, and I think this is what you're trying to imply or trying to lead to, which is there were current parents or guardians who submitted survey results, but that was filtered out because their email address was not attached or associated with Infinite Campus. If that's what you're asking, the answer to that question is yes, that did occur.
And you knew that before the board meeting, right?
I think it started to emerge as we were disaggregating the data.
So when did you learn that?
Over the weekend and before that school board meeting.
Did Ms. Marble call you and tell you?
I don't recall how I became aware of the fact that there were parents who were using an email other than the email in Infinite Campus to complete the survey.
Did somebody tell you?
Someone at some point shared that information with me, yes.
Okay. Did you receive any emails? Let me put it this way. Of the documents that were produced in this public records request, were there any documents withheld?
No.
Okay. And no emails that were withheld, to be clear on that too.
To the best of my knowledge, Mr. Cross, no.
Okay. But the only way you would have known that is if the attorney told you?
Or Mr. Price.
Okay. Got it. You also mentioned that Leanne Fraley also made and this is what I want to be clear on, was this a separate request for the data disaggregation or a part of the previous request?
I don't know where it is in this response packet, but there's an email from Ms. Fraley asking a very similar question that Mr. Phillips requested of me.
Okay. And what was your response to that?
We'll start working on it.
Okay. And had you already started working on it at that time?
I don't remember when that email came in.
Okay. Now, I think we're going to shift to another point. at some point you told the whole board, right?
I'm going to object to the form.
You told the whole board about the disaggregation, right?
I don't recall. I don't remember.
Okay, but according to your practice that you explained to us, if you get a request from an individual member or members of the board, then you in your sole discretion, inform the rest of the board.
Typically, I do. I don't remember if there was an email that I sent to the board because I have communications to the board. I would have to look back to see if I shared that information with them or not.
So let's go to page 22. That might be easier to find.
Since these aren't page numbered, help us.
I think it's 10 in, but it's just his email to the board.
I think these emails might be in time order, so that might help, but I don't know.
I'm used to hitting 22 on the PDF software. That being the end of
I
it.
hear you.
Okay, and that's the problem here, and I apologize to everybody. Okay.
I see something dated Sunday, August 21st at 12:45 p.m. And it says, "Dear board members,
All right.
please see the following link. Human Growth and Development Survey data, confirm district relationship." And then it says, "The district's IT team and Dr. Marble worked around the clock this weekend to gather this information." Methodology. Any email that is not registered with either Blackboard or Infinite Campus was considered not to have a relationship with WSD. FYI.
Okay. So, and did you send that to all board members or just some board members?
It looks like it was sent to all school board members with Dr. Marble CC
How do you know that?
because it says to school board members.
Okay, so it's a group email?
It's a group email.
Okay. So,
That's pretty good, actually. Just as a side note, so typically I would have waited until Monday to send that type of information out, but they received it on Sunday at 12:45 p.m.
are you complimenting me?
I'm complimenting myself.
Okay. Okay. There's a lot of compliments going around. We got to be clear where they're headed. All right. So, okay. So, even with that level of speed in mind, is there anything in that email that indicates that the request, who the request is coming from?
No.
No. In fact, what does it say? Does it say the district? Who is originating the data cleanup exercise?
It doesn't really say anything. It just says, please see the following link. And then the link of the survey is there. And it says the district's IT team and Dr. Marble worked around the clock this weekend to gather this information.
Okay. And does that seem like it's a district exercise or a board member exercise?
I'm going to object on the grounds that it's vague. You can go ahead and give them your interpretation.
I think my communication was not intended to point out who made the request, but just to give the data.
Okay. So, for example, let's say, do you know Jenny Hoag? I think that's how you pronounce that?
Yes, Jenny Hoig.
How do you pronounce, who is she?
She's a school board member.
Okay. And she would have gotten this email, right?
She would have.
Okay. And she wasn't a member of, fine. And I'm understanding that she's a doctor as well, to be clear on that. Okay.
Yes.
And so.
Credit where credit's due.
That's true, yeah.
But is there any way of, she's not in Mr. Phillips, she's not Leanne Fraley, she's not Dr. Jessup Anger, right? So is there anything in this email that would have let her know that those were the board members that were making that request?
No.
Okay. And how about Mr. Meier? Would he have known?
No.
Okay. And it's also true to say that there was an upcoming board meeting the next day, in fact, right?
Yes.
Okay. And at that board meeting, people were being expected to vote on the Human Growth and Development curriculum, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just one other thing on that. Did Mike Myers at any time, to your knowledge, propose that the board meeting on Human Growth and Development be postponed at any time?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't. I know he cited a lot of concerns and that the board should pause and listen to community concerns.
And that would have given time to more clearly disaggregate the data, wouldn't it?
I don't think it would have given more time to disaggregate. I mean, we disaggregated the data. If anything, I would say that it would have given more time for the board to sit with that data set.
Okay. And so, let's just getting back to the two, comparing and contrasting these two data sets here. There's the one data set that's larger. Is that favorable to the curriculum or something else?
I don't think is not as favorable as this data set. And when I say this data set, I mean the data set that has a confirmed district relationship.
Okay, so the filtered one is more favorable to the curriculum. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
How do you know that?
The data results.
Okay, just by looking at it. Okay,
Yes.
well, but that, so what do I understand, what my question is how do you know it's favorable to the curriculum? Meaning that the parents
think
are saying we want the curriculum?
The parents indicated that they were in favor of the curriculum.
Okay, how did the parents know to be in favor or against the curriculum? How would they have the ability to make that judgment?
So all takers of the survey had access to the curriculum online, and they could review the curriculum before they voted.
Okay, and ultimately, do you know if the school board voted to approve the curriculum?
I do know that the school board voted to approve the curriculum.
Okay, so it's fair to say that the unfiltered data was less favorable to the end result that the school board took than the filtered data, right?
It was, yes.
Okay, and did that play an impact on why the data was filtered in the first place?
Did what play?
The favorable result.
Did something that I'm going to object to the form. That makes no sense. Go ahead and answer.
I think I understand what Mr. Cross is
All
trying
right,
to say.
you guys are talking on a plane I don't understand.
I don't know if Mr. Phillips and or Ms. Fraley presumed that the results of the filtered parent associated to the district results would be favorable or more favorable than the overall raw results that were provided to the district. I think they made a presumption that that was the case, but we didn't know until after we actually gathered the data.
Well, if they didn't know, why do you think that Mr. Phillips asked you to aggregate the data?
Objection, foundation. Answer if you know.
It would be unfair to Mr. Phillips and Ms. Fraley to try to understand why they made the request. I don't know why they made the request. It would be conjecture.
And they all, let's say, Board Member Phillips praised you for getting the work done in such a short period of time, didn't he?
He praised our team, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think even, in fact, Mr. Cross at the school board meeting, he was thankful to Dr. Marble and the team that pulled that data together.
Okay, at the school board meeting, did he identify himself as the person who started that request?
I don't recall, but I remember him saying that I don't recall. I would have to go back and watch that school board meeting.
How about Leanne Fraley?
I don't remember.
Okay. And was it clear at the school board meeting whether or not, or that parents understood that stakeholders were being excluded, or sorry, community members were being filtered out?
Object to the form, foundation if you know.
I believe that
answer.
Dr. Marble properly titled the survey results, so anyone observing and watching and following the proceedings would have known that there were disaggregated data sets being presented.
Okay. And they would have known how it was being disaggregated?
By the title on the on the PowerPoint slides.
And that would have indicated Infinite Campus?
I don't remember which title she used, but she did disaggregate out and titled the results appropriately to the disaggregated set of information.
Okay. Did she use the term blackboard?
I don't recall.
Okay. So this is page 128, and I'll just read this here, but if we can find it, that's fine, and if we can't, I'll be happy to wait. So this is on Sunday evening at 1936. And Jennifer Hoig emails you, sir, and the Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Marbles. So it's subject HGD survey results. Wow, exclamation point. I am so impressed and grateful that you've done all of this work to better identify who belongs to our community. Will you now be presenting this data rather than the data believed to be contaminated? Did I read that right?
You did.
Okay.
Did you find the email?
I found it.
Oh, you guys are ahead of me. Okay. Keep going.
All right. So I'm going to ask you, is there a correlation between the term cleanup exercise that was the subject of the email to you and Dr. Marble using the term scrub?
Objection foundation. To the extent you know and can answer, please do so.
I don't believe that there is a association or any effort in concert to use those terms.
Okay. And did you believe that the first data set was contaminated?
I wouldn't have used the word contaminated. If you recall, a few minutes ago, I used the word compromised.
Okay. And here is she keeps going and says, one quick ask, can you add the sample size to each of the subgroups? It would help to know if we're talking about 3, 30, or 300 people representing a subgroup. Thanks again for your diligence. Did I read that right?
You did.
Okay. Is that request to you or somebody else?
It's very broad, and so I think if I'm following this, Dr. Nicole Marble responded to Dr. Jenny Hoig and said, Dr. Hoig, the sample size has been updated in the slide deck. If you already have it open, you might need to simply refresh for it to appear in the legend of slide 3.
Okay. So did you tell Dr. Marble that she could update those that slide?
No.
No. So that been a violation of the policy, therefore, a board member to ask one of your subordinates something directly.
I'm going to object to the form. It misstates the document. Subject to that, you may answer.
I understand your question.
Okay.
I think he wants you to answer.
I don't.
Oh, okay.
Appreciate
That was my answer.
Where-
I understand his question.
Okay, got it.
I think
Got
we're
it.
speaking the same language.
Yes, sir.
You two are, and I'm lost.
As long as it's reflected on the record.
Fair point, fair point.
Okay. So, then there was the meeting, and after the meeting, it's fair to say that some of community members were unhappy by the result. Is
That's
that
an
fair to say?
understatement.
Okay. And you were aware of that unhappiness, correct?
I was and am aware of it.
Okay. So, and in fact, several community members reached out to either you, Dr. Marble, other district employees directly and said, or asked them about how the filtering occurred, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And also, in fact, one of those community members reached out to Mr. Meier, who then reached out to you on behalf of that community member, correct?
I don't recall, but
Okay. So I'm going to direct you now to page 225.
okay.
And this is a 8/24/1751 email from Dr. Marble to a community member. And it's my preference that we don't need to identify the community member
No.
here on the video, but if that happens, I'm sure
Just
we'll
call
be
it
okay.
Jane Doe or John Doe is fine.
Right.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, just to alert you that that might come up. Okay.
I'm sorry, Counsel. One more time, the date and time of the email?
Page 225.
Yep.
The date is 8/24/22 at 17:51.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have it, or?
No.
Okay.
But if he finds it, you go ahead as soon as he's
I
got
was
it.
hoping. Okay.
What's the date? What's the date again?
8/24/1750.
8/24?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. And it's to Dr. Marble?
From Dr. Marble.
Okay.
9/24.
It starts well, it doesn't start, but it says the board made a request to see which emails were directly connected with a student in the district.
Whoever finds it first, if I can visually see it, I'll be able to find it quicker.
Yeah. And I'm going to read it out here, just if that helps while you're going here. It says, the board made a request to see which emails were directly connected with a student in the district. The district maintained on the website comprehensive data results that represented the results from all of the data collected. To meet the request of board members, district officials worked over the weekend to disaggregate the data based on the criteria offered by board members. Open paren emails associated with Blackboard and/or Infinite Campus indicating current association with the WSD, close paren. Approximately 16 hours of work time over the weekend of August 20th and 21st was used to meet the data request of the board. Unfortunately, it is our estimate that it will take an additional 16 hours plus to determine the number of emails excluded by category of association to the district.
Toward
With
the end.
school starting on September 1st and adoption of the new strategic plan, I've been directed by Dr. Means to focus on executing the strategic plan. Have you found the document here?
I found it.
For the record only, it's like 6 pages or so to the end.
Because this is 228 pages and that's page 224, isn't it?
We're with you.
Okay. Great. So did I read that part right? Were you able to identify that? Okay. And I want to...
Sorry.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
So, and when she says in there, the board made a request to see which emails were directly connected with a student in the district, that's not strictly accurate, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay. But it is strictly accurate to say, to meet the request of board members, district officials worked over the weekend to disaggregate the data based on the criteria offered by board members. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And are you copied on this email?
I am.
Okay. And so when you saw that, and it said the board made a request to see which emails were directly connected with the student in the district, did you take any steps to correct that statement?
I did not.
Why not?
This is the formality that in which I spoke to earlier in terms of how things are now being treated in the school district. Dr. Marble did not use precise language of the board because only the board can act as a governing body and the 7 board members as a whole. There was the nomenclature of board versus board members was intermixed in this case. Did I take action to correct that? No, but I didn't know that we were now functioning in that type of environment, Mr. Cross.
Okay, but you also, had, in that environment too, you had made the decision not to inform all of the board members about the fact that you had just had a request from Mr. Phillips and Ms. Fraley only, right?
I'm sorry. I'm going to object to the form.
Okay, I can re-ask that question.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So this is the environment that we're talking about now. Over that weekend, on Sunday in fact, you had made the decision to tell the board about the disaggregation of the data, but you didn't tell the board at that time where the request for the disaggregation of data came from, right?
I did not.
Okay. So, and that's the context that we're talking about in this letter that you see from Ms. Marble to a constituent that says that the board requested that, even though you knew it was untrue.
Wait, I'm going to object to the form. If you follow, go ahead.
I don't follow.
Okay, you knew this statement when you received it and were copied on it wasn't accurate, right? The statement that the board had requested this data.
In the formal form of policy, yes, I knew that.
Okay,
I knew it wasn't accurate that the full board voted to gather this disaggregated data. If that's what you're trying to ask, did Damon Means, the superintendent, know that the full board did not vote on it, but it was a request that came separately from two different school board members? If that's your question, the answer is yes, I did know that that was the fact and the originating point of the request.
okay. And so on page 125 here, there's an email on 8/24 of 22 at 6:02 from you to another community member. And this is what I believe is the one that's copied to Mr. Meier. And it says, as indicated earlier, there was a request from some board members to determine which emails in the survey response were currently and directly associated with the district. The best methodology available to the district was to match emails associated with Blackboard and at Infinite Campus to meet the data request. Okay?
Okay.
Why did you tell this person that the best methodology available to the district was to match emails associated with Blackboard and or Infinite Campus?
Because that was the methodology that we used.
Why was that the best?
Because the request was, if you go back to Mr. Phillips' request, was to match emails that were associated with Infinite Campus. We also understand that Blackboard is another way that we communicate with our families. So the request was to find email addresses associated with current parents of current students and to figure out and to disaggregate what their survey results were.
Well, did I understand you to say that it was the best because Mr. Phillips asked for it?
Objection. Asked and answered. Misconstrues his answer. Subject to that, you may answer again.
I think I answered your question.
Okay. But you didn't tell this constituent that or that Mr. Phillips, it was the best methodology available to Mr. Phillips, right? You said the best methodology available to the district, correct?
If your question is that what he said, I don't have an objection to that, and you can answer that.
Yes, that's what I said.
Okay, what steps, if any, did you take or any district employees take to find alternate means to disaggregate the data?
We used the methodology that has been outlined, that we found emails from either Infinite Campus or Blackboard.
Okay, and best means that of possibilities, there's one that's better than others, right?
Yes,
Okay, so if you didn't have others, how is this one the best?
because if the goal or if the intention was to identify families who are currently directly associated with students in the school system, the best way to do that is to utilize our school information system, Infinite Campus or Blackboard.
Okay, I'm getting a signal here that we're going to take a break. Let's say
5 minutes?
even to like 2:40.
Yes.
Yeah, let's round it up.
Wait, it's 1:40.
1:40.
We are off the record at 1:41 p.m. This is the end of media unit number 3.
Yeah.